the Government. Leighton Andrews.
Llywydd, I find it hard to credit this motion. It's not as though I'm not taking determined action on the issues that have been raised. I've set out my ambition to see literacy levels and reading performance improve dramatically. Introduction of national reading tests will give us a robust, precise picture of the nature and scale of the problem and how to address the problem. I've been more than clear that the 2009 PISA results, alongside other evidence, painted a very disappointing picture of our performance and progress. I said it was evidence of systemic failure, a complacent system, and that there would be no alibis and no excuses, that action was needed to raise standards and performance in education across the board for the benefit of our learners. And I have taken that action, setting out a 20-point action plan to turn around performance. But what I don't like is when people talk down what our education system is actually delivering. The motion says glibly that there has been a decline in the number of pupils in Wales achieving top grades at A-level. In fact, since devolution, more students are achieving A grades in GCSEs and A-levels, and fewer young people are leaving school with no qualifications. A-level pass rates in August 2011 were very similar across the UK. There is a small, but admittedly growing gap between Wales and England when we look at A-level achievement at A-star to C, but let's put it in perspective. It is 1.9 percentage points, hardly a huge gap. The disparity between the proportion of A-level entries awarded the top grades of A-star and A is slightly bigger, and I am concerned that we've not made progress at these grades and that more needs to be done. And I said that in February 2011 and took action. We know that we need to do more to close the gap between us and the other home nations, especially at the higher grades. It's disappointing that there is a growing gap between the proportion of our 15-year-olds who achieve the level 2 threshold, equivalent to 5 good GCSEs, and those who do so including a good pass in English or Welsh and mathematics. But this shows that we are right to focus our attention on improving literacy and numeracy. And the member for Llanelli, my colleague, was quite right to point out that where schools achieve well, and he took the example of Treorchy in my constituency, we have evidence of some of the most outstanding practice, not just in the UK, but globally. And that's why I've brought together, I think it's 15 leading head teachers across the whole of Wales to meet in the practitioners panel to discuss how we spread the best practice that exists in Wales and ensure that it is implemented across the piece. And when it comes to higher education, of course we're disappointed that no Welsh universities have made the top 200 list. Global rankings can be a useful means of gauging relative performance of countries or individual HE institutions, but they should not be viewed in isolation or used as the basis for drawing correlations made between cause and effect. Drawing conclusions about economic performance based upon research assessment, for example, can lead to over-concentration on research to the detriment of teaching or to favouring particular disciplines, especially the sciences. And my colleague, the member for Aberavon, was absolutely right to point out how disappointing it was that the Conservatives continue to talk down our higher education institutions and don't recognise any of the excellence that goes on within those higher education institutions. And I commend him on an excellent speech. And I notice, of course, that the Conservative motion is absolutely silent on one of their policies, which would be to make all Welsh students pay higher fees wherever they studied. That is not our policy. We will support our universities and our students, and our fees policy will mean that all HEIs in Wales will see increasing incomes. But it's when the motion turns to funding that I think the Conservative spokesperson wins this month's Brass Neck Award. Under their budget proposals, health would be ring-fenced, but education would not. That means cuts in budgets, cuts in the number of teachers, cuts in the number of schools, no more free school breakfast programmes.
Are you taking intervention?
Very grateful for the Minister taking an intervention, and I'm delighted that you're reminding everybody in this chamber and the Welsh public about our commitment to the NHS, because it is a pillar upon which we rest our manifesto. But can I just make this point to you? Paul Davies quite rightly pointed out our policy of reducing bureaucracy within the education system in Wales, and actually by funding schools directly, those efficiencies would deliver more to schools on the front line, not less, even though we would cut the education budget, and we're happy to acknowledge that, by 12%. So, therefore,
This
more
is an
cash to the
intervention,
front
not a
line
speech.
and protection of the health budget.
Well, I'm delighted,
Minister.
Chloe, that the member has confirmed that they would cut the education budget. I understand that there is an agricultural method widely used in some countries called slash and burn. When it comes to education, the Conservatives offer us slash and burns. She would slash education budgets, slash support for students, slash the number of teachers and the number of schools. Remember that slogan from the 1970s? Margaret Thatcher, milk snatcher? I give you the modern equivalent. Cut price Thatcher, budget slasher. Slasher burns. Under her, education in Wales would be on life support. We'd have to call it the Burns Unit. Unlike them, this Welsh Government made a manifesto commitment to provide more funding for our schools as one of the 5 for a fairer future. We have honoured our commitment to local government by protecting funding for education in the budget, to increase spend on frontline education services by 1% in comparison with the amount received in the Welsh Block grant. That reflects our commitment to protect education in order to ensure the delivery of best outcomes. There has been continued significant investment into education across Wales. For example, we've given additional support to the regional consortia. We've given help to them to streamline their school improvement services from 22 to 4, to help them support their lower performing schools, both in the last year and in the next year. And I'm delighted to have got a pledge from local authorities to increase levels of delegation to schools by 80% by September 2012 and to 85% by 2014, moving funding directly to schools from behind the scenes. And they talk about the PricewaterhouseCoopers report. Well, who commissioned it? I commissioned it, because I wanted to drive more money to the front line, and then I implemented the Frontline Resources Review. And what pushed up the costs of education in Wales? What increased the bureaucracy in education in Wales? The move from 8 local education authorities to 22 local education authorities. And forgive me, which party made the move from 8 local education authorities to 22 local education authorities? It was the Conservatives. They did that. They increased the bureaucracy. They caused the fragmentation of the education system in Wales. And let's not forget either the additional money we put into the School Effectiveness Grant, which focuses on improving literacy and numeracy amongst our young people. The budget for 2012-13 is 24 million. There'll be additional match funding from local authorities, bringing it to over 32 million. And on top of that, of course, we have the Pupil Deprivation Grant, which will go in its entirety to schools to support the priority of narrowing the gap. Confirmed funding for 2012-13 is 32 million, 20 million of which is new money in support of the national priorities that we have for schools. So we will be supporting the amendment from the Liberal Democrats, Amendments 2 and 3. We will not be supporting Amendment 4, which prejudges the budget negotiations that we should be having. However, overall, we ask this chamber today to reject this motion. We are investing in schools. We are investing in teachers. We are investing in pupils. They would cut education spending, as they've confirmed today.